Hi and welcome back. We're at part C now of the Summer Bootstrap webpage project. This is part C, so if you're coming in late, you might want to back up and do your preliminary work to create your images. And then the last session, we got everything set up on the page. Now we're ready to actually add some content. So what we're going to do next is, let's start off by collapsing this head element so we don't have to stare at all of this stuff at the top. So we'll go ahead and collapse that down. That's what those pluses and minuses do. Now we don't want to collapse the body or we'll collapse everything. So we have to leave that body open. We're going to be adding 3 components from Bootstrap into the body of this web page. We're going to add a navigation bar at the top, and then another navigation bar at the bottom that we'll use as a footer, and then a carousel, an image carousel. So I'm going to show you an example of a finished project. Here's one. You can see here, this is an image carousel, and I can click on these little lines, and these are the images that I created using Pixlr. So there's that. And then, so for this session, we're going to add this navigation bar at the top. Adding it with these words is optional. That would be a bonus thing. There'll be a bonus session at the end of all of these, and we'll go over adding in some additional bonus things. So you won't necessarily have that part up at the top. But we'll have the navigation bar and this slideshow, and then at the bottom, a footer, which I'll scoot down so you can see, something like that. So that's what we're looking at in this session. So let's go ahead and hop to it. We're going to have to go back to the Bootstrap documentation, and I am going to encourage you to kind of constantly to go back and forth here on that, because it is important to make sure that we are adding the proper codes for the version of Bootstrap that we're using, which is Bootstrap 4. It is searchable, so as there are things that I talk about, I'll show you how to just quickly search to get to them, and we can actually do a lot of copying and pasting. Bootstrap is kind of building blocks, so it really is just grabbing what you need. Okay, so here I am, and the first item that we're going to do is we're going to insert the navigation bar Bootstrap component as a heading. So that's a nav bar. I'm just going to come to search and type in nav bar, and then just click on that, and it'll take you to the page about nav bars. And then you can see on here there are various little buttons you can click depending on what it is you're trying to do. I'm just going to scroll down here, and you can see here's an example of a complete navigation bar. We don't need anything this fancy for our little website. This is your more simple one, and this is really all we need here. So we're going to use a brand nav bar. So it's just a bar that goes across and has text in it. And we don't need a link because we're not going to go anywhere when you click on this. We just need a heading here. So this one would be suitable for our needs. I'm just going to go ahead and copy and paste this section of code straight into Repl to create, oh, you have to hit Control V, I forget, in Repl, to create this navigation bar. I'm going to hit Run. And now I have a nav bar at the top. What you'll see is that this is the nav. So if I collapse this down, you'll see the opening and closing tag. Nav bar creates the box you see at the top. Nav bar light and BG light are the color schemes that go here. That's something that you have to consider. What colors do you want to use? Now this background color that we have here is not really going to show except behind some rows later on. So you have to choose the top and the bottom colors here, okay? And then where it says span class navbar brand is the word that's right here, okay? MB0 is margin bottom of 0. That's the class that sets the margin of bottom of this to 0 so that it will not have a gap between this element and the next element so that the header sticks to the next element. And then H1 is the way they style the nav bar to kind of look like a heading. You can change this number because it's built in Bootstrap for various heading sizes. Now that one didn't change anything, but you can set that into different things. There's also things called like a display and just various elements here. And we're not going to even mess with that, so it won't matter on this one, but you can set those classes accordingly. Okay, so here you just need to put something suitable for your heading, and in my example I just put JHS Web Design 2. So you can kind of put whatever you want and hit Run and update that. As far as your color scheme goes, go back into Bootstrap. There is a button over here on the right for nav bars where it says Color Scheme. And notice that you have nav bar light for light background colors, nav bar dark for dark background colors. And then it says you can customize the BG for other utilities. So we would go into the utilities section, which is over here where it says utilities, and then you're going to get into colors here, and then there's border colors, or background rather, colors in here. So here's how you can choose what color that you want. So if you wanted to go with this like gold color at the top, then you're going to need BG warning. So I would just copy that text, BG warning. I don't need the dot. That's just the class name is BG warning. And then instead of BG light, I would put BG warning in there. And there you go. And there's also text colors. And again, that was higher up here. So these are your text colors. So instead of what's there, you could also, well, there's nothing there for text right now, so it's just black. But you could go through here and modify that also. Okay. And you can see if I switch this to navbar dark, it's going to change that color to the white colored text instead of the black. So this is completely on you as to what you like because it's your page. But that's what those elements do. So just remember these are all built-in classes, so you don't have to go to all the trouble to try to come up with colors for everything. Okay, that takes care of the nav. I'm going to collapse my nav so I don't have to look at all of that. And then we're ready for our second element. And our second element in this project is going to be this slideshow, and that is called a carousel in Bootstrap. Carousel is a component. If you click on components and then go to carousel, you'll be able to find carousels. And there's different ones. Like you can have one that's just a slide, and if you sit here long enough, it'll switch to the second slide and then to the third slide. And then you have other ones. So here's with controls, so that has these little arrows, or there's indicators, which actually indicators have both. So you can click on these, or you can click on your lines. So you can choose whichever one you want to add of these, but let's say we do with indicators. So you would just scroll down here and copy this entire block. Now don't be intimidated. It's not really that complicated. Click on copy, and we're going to pop that in here, Control V to paste. And then we just have to update a few things in this carousel. Namely, we have to say, here's our pictures, because there's no pictures in here. There's just ... And our pictures are in an images folder. So where this has ... I'm just going to update those sources. So images / and then summer1.jpg. And then where it says alt, you have to update your text alternative. So I'm not sure what my first picture is. I didn't use indicators on this one, so let me refresh the page. So travel is my first one. So I would say travel photo or travel banner or whatever you want to call it. And then you just do the same thing. You repeat this process. Images / summer2.jpg. See why I said to give them easy names. Still don't recall what the second one is. I'm just going to put summer banner since I don't know. And you could copy and paste instead of retyping this every time and just change the number, which is pretty easy. Okay, I'm just going to put another banner right now since I don't remember. Now, something to note, you don't want to mess with this stuff too much. Your very first one has to have this class that says active in it. That's how it starts. So if you don't have active in here, it won't start. And I'm just telling you that because you could have like 6 or 7 pictures in here. You're just going to add another carousel item, but you don't want to have 2 that say active. See, only the first one says active and the rest of these are all identical. So I could copy and paste and add more pictures if I just keep on going down there. Okay, and then D block, what that does is it displays the image as a block element. Images are inline elements. They usually just go straight in line with text. That D block displays them as block elements. And the W100 sets the responsive width of the image to 100%. So it makes the banner stretch all the way across the page, even if you scale your page down. Okay, once I've got these updated, I'm going to hit run. And now I should have my slideshow. See, it's responsive because of that W100 that's built in. And then I've got my little arrows and I've got my indicators. There we go. So simple, simple. And remember, you can hit the extra one to open it in a new tab and you can kind of see what it's looking like as you're building. That's looking pretty good, pretty happy with it. And so now that carousel takes up a ton of space. I'm going to collapse this one down so I don't have to look at it. And I do strongly suggest, since we're not using Dreamweaver where we can collapse things down or we can use the DOM to move things around, we definitely want to take advantage of expanding and collapsing only as necessary. So for our nav, I need a footer at the bottom. Really, at this point, we can copy and paste this other guy, right? So let me go ahead and select all of this, and we'll paste it down. And notice I didn't have to expand it to select it. It still selected the part you couldn't see. If I run, I'm going to now have that right below this. Now, it's not going to be below this. We're going to add additional content here in the next session. But for now, it's right below this. And you probably don't want this to look identical to the other one. Of course, down here at the bottom, you're probably going to want different words. You may want to style the text differently. You might want to take out, say, this H1 here, so it's not bold and everything. You might want to center this span here. You can do that with, I think it's MX Auto. There we go, MX Auto, which sets the left and right margin of that to automatic. So that'll center that in there. And then, of course, you just add in whatever you would want to have down here. You know, if I want to do a copyright thing, I could, you know, put that information down there at the bottom. Or you could go ahead and change this. You know, maybe I want this to have, pretend that it's a lighter nav bar so that it's going to have black text. And then maybe I want that background color to be something else. I can, go back into my, this one over here, type in my colors to get that from my utilities, background colors, and maybe I want to choose something light, you know, BG light or whatever, and I could go ahead and pop that in here so that the bottom looks different. It's really going to be completely up to you and what you want it to look like. So I think that's pretty much everything at the moment that we need to add to this. You just want to make sure that you run everything and that everything works before you move on to the next session. Don't move on if you're not certain it all works. So run and open it in the new tab and look at everything. You know, do you have your text up in your title? Do you have your header? Do you have your footer? Does your slideshow work? Okay, so if everything is working, you're in good shape and you're ready to go tackle Part D.